Hi, welcome to another podcast of Beyond Chronic Disease. My name's Wendy Gathercole and I'm the host of the show, and today you're stuck with me. So I am the author of the book Whole Foods, The Facts, The Secret to Thriving After 40. And I just wanted to have a little talk about gluten-free. Last week, if you're following my Facebook pages and Instagram, I put a photo of gluten-free peanut butter on there, and I thought that was hysterical. Or if you are new to gluten-free or you don't understand what gluten is, which may be the case, as I didn't understand it many, many years ago when I was told to adapt or adopt a gluten-free diet. But what in the heck is gluten-free or gluten? So gluten is a little protein that is a naturally occurring substance in grain products, namely wheat, rye, and barley. That is what we're probably more used to. Oats are naturally gluten-free. And why am I talking about gluten-free? Because it's very, very big in the big wide world today. And it wasn't many, many years ago. So in my book, Whole Foods, The Facts, which I just showed you, here it is again, Whole Foods, The Facts, I had a chronic disease, Crohn's, and I also had panic attacks and anxiety, got diagnosed with depression, and I had chronic pain in my side. With all of that, I was told to adopt a gluten-free diet. So initially it was very difficult, and that led me to reading labels. So the labels on every single packet in the supermarket, and you have two labels. You have a nutritional value, which has got like fats and sugars and carbohydrates, which is the bulk of the items, and then you have the little ingredients list label. So when you adopt any diet, it's very, very important to learn how to read labels and what's in your food, or what's in processed food, I should say, because it's quite instrumental to your wellness. The gluten, if you're highly intolerant, celiacs can be typically, then it's really instrumental that you know how to read labels, because even though gluten is typically in grains, there's so many other products on our supermarket shelves that it is sort of a hidden part of. Hence the reason for this little gluten-free topic today. So when I first got diagnosed, well, not first got diagnosed, but when I first got told to adopt a gluten-free diet, well, it's pretty tough, because let's face it, most of us grew up on wheat, and anyway, so it was a matter of looking at eliminating the bulk of the items that you knew that had wheat in them, which is all the breads and pastries and anything that you buy from a bakery. So any baked goods, cakes, biscuits, all of the stuff that is deemed not to be healthy for you anyway. That's pretty easy to ascertain which products have gluten in them. But it's all the little hidden ones, the little hidden, the products that have got little hidden bits of gluten in them. And that can be in condiments or any frozen packaged foods and things like that you wouldn't know. unless you read the ingredients list and researched what they were and so forth. So gluten-free, yes, typically in grains. Now, oats, like I said, are gluten-free. But one day I saw a bag of gluten-free oats and thought, what the? Because they don't contain gluten. But you may not be aware that some of the items that we are served up in the supermarket are all made in the same factory, I guess, all on the same processing plant. So our packaged oats might have been ran through a plant that had wheat products recently through it. So that's why, if you've read ingredients list at all, some of them would say, well, not the ingredients list, just a notation on the packet that these may have been ran on a plant with wheat or something to that effect. So if you're highly susceptible to gluten, highly intolerant to gluten, I guess anything that reads gluten-free, you will be safe to consume if it causes you a stomach complaint. So the fictional part of gluten is the fact that it's a huge marketing ploy, and that comes back to my little jar of peanut butter. There is no gluten in peanuts, and to have gluten-free written on a peanut butter jar is a really, really intelligent marketing ploy. So the instrumental part of buying processed foods, because anything that's in a packet or a jar is processed. Anything that's a fruit, vegetable, nuts, seed, in its whole state is a whole food. So anything that's processed, you really need to know how to read the labels. And I run a little workshop on reading labels if you're interested. So with my journey, just to let you know how severe it can be, I was very susceptible to gluten. My whole, I guess my digestive system wasn't working well. And I believe that's why we are so susceptible to many products, is our digestive system, because our diets aren't what they used to be. And there's a lot of toxicities in a lot of the stuff that we eat these days. But anyway, so my adopting the gluten-free diet was my starting point to my well-being. So it was the elimination of a lot of the pain that I was experiencing. So what I found was when I took a lot of those products out of my, all wheat-based or gluten products out of my diet, and I was reading the labels on many things, it failed me one day because I made some rissoles and I had dinner, and then I was on the floor in chronic pain and thinking, what the heck did I consume that had wheat in it? Because I made everything myself, and I was just having vegetables which had nothing in them, no sauces. I don't use all that sort of stuff really. And so I had a look at my ingredients for the hamburgers, and you know, we do put breadcrumbs in them, which I didn't, or maybe I used gluten-free, I can't remember, but anyway, that wasn't the problem. So I used what we call Worcestershire sauce, and I looked at the ingredients on that, and it contains barley. So that one little ingredient, and it wasn't a whole bottle of sauce that I used, it was only a couple of tablespoons or teaspoons, whatever it was. So that's how it impacted me. So in saying that, that's the gluten side of it. Excuse me. And this is a gluten-free chat. But some of the ingredients that are in our foods can really impact our health severely. Like you might be getting a headache every day and thinking that you might be just stressed, or it's, I don't know, it's husband or your wife or your kids, or stress in general, work. It could be one little thing that you're eating every day, or putting on your body that could be giving you that headache. So it's really important to read the labels. So getting back to the gluten, it is a naturally occurring substance in grains, and it can also be non-natural because it can be extracted and it can be used in different ways, in different products that way. So therefore it's in its unnatural state. So it's really it's really important to read labels, but it's also really important to follow your own gut instinct and body, what your body's telling you about certain foods that you're consuming, because it can be very stressful adopting a diet that's really difficult to follow. And I just find that sometimes impacts on your body just as much as eating something that does impact on your body, like the gluten did with me. So I was very, very susceptible to getting pain from any little amounts of gluten. So once I eliminated it all totally from my diet and started eating more whole foods and implementing everything that I did was more whole foods, and making things myself. And people talk about being time poor, and trust me, once you start getting into the flow of how to make different sauces, or most of the time for a dressing for my salads and so forth was a squeeze of lemon juice or a squeeze of lime, or a little bit of apple cider vinegar or something like that, which is really, really basic, just to give it a little bit of zing, but also to put more nutrients into your body. So it's just a stepping program, really. You just have to read labels and see what impacts you and what doesn't. And those grains, I was able to eat spelt bread. Spelt bread has got gluten in it. It's an ancient grain, and there's a couple of ancient grains, farro and kamut, and they've got gluten in them as well. So I'm just, I'm not telling you to go out and eat spelt bread if you're celiac and you're highly intolerant to gluten, but I found that I could eat these grains, well, not these, I ate spelt bread without any problems whatsoever. And if you're really wanting to eliminate bread or breads from your diet, the organic shops, they do have a sprouted grain bread, which is, excuse me, which is quite dense, but it's sprouted grain, so it's sort of alive, and it's got a real nutty sort of grain, grainy, I was going to say grainy flavour, but it's a sort of a nutty flavour because it's sprouted grains, and that's quite nice, slightly toasted or not. It's very, very filling. If you're eating a lot of bread and you can't eat it anymore and you sort of miss that, that's what I bought every now and again, because I quite enjoyed it. And like I said, it's very, very filling, because sometimes salad just didn't cut it for me. And when I say salad, I don't mean just the tomato, lettuce, and I don't know, cucumber. I mean making big whole food mega salads. And when you do the whole foods, and it can be, when people talk about time poor, can't make all of this stuff, when you're making things like this, you tend to make a great big batch of stuff all at once, so it can be recycled the next day and so forth, which is what I did. And trust me, you feel way better on eating less gluten, really, and having more whole foods in your diet. And I know when we have stomach digestive disorders, we we find that fiber might go right through us or can create pain. And I've been there. I went through all that. And that's what I mean with, you have to work out what suits your body and what doesn't. The more I eliminated more and more processed food from my diet and added more and more whole foods, it just created my well-being in my body like I never had before. So gluten-free, it is out there, and if you really, you're susceptible to gluten, I know it seems hard, but don't eat processed foods. Even if they are gluten-free, you really need to read the labels, because there's some nasties in some of the gluten-free products. And also you have to adopt a different way of cooking, because just for example, pasta, a lot of the gluten-free pastas are made from corn or rice, and they cook up differently, put it that way. So you really have to be on the ball with the gluten-free products. And the flours are certainly different. Another one that's a little bit tricky can be corn flour. You would think that corn flour is naturally gluten-free, but some of the corn flours have got wheat starch in them. So you have to, again, adopt the label reading, because it's so important. I'm not sure if you've heard of dextrose. That's a product that's in some frozen foods. If you see dextrose in there, that can be made from wheat. So again, you need to read the labels. So I hope this was an insight into the gluten-free. It's not to be scaring you. It's just if you're highly intolerant to gluten-free and you're wondering why you're not getting better, or things aren't going as well and you're still feeling bloated, or there's so many things happening, because that when we have got digestive disorders, we don't get our nutrients. They don't get absorbed as well either, so we can experience tiredness, and there's so many variables out there for so many different people. But if you eliminate as many processed foods as possible, and when I talk gluten-free, I mean all the pastas and all the gluten-free biscuits and all that, because they're not doing you any good, really. And what I mean by that, I don't talk about the foods being good or bad for you as such. I mean that once you eliminate the processed foods and you can intake more and more whole foods, you'll see not only your gut health, but your mental health go from really low to booming. And I've been there, and that was my starting point. So in my book, Whole Foods the Facts, page 51, that was when I started my gluten-free journey, I guess. And it was a lot of self-education, because I got it from a wellness center that I went to, and the doctors probably don't tell you. I'm not so sure what they tell you these days. I haven't been to one for a little while, but they don't study nutrition, so they don't really know about different products, I guess, out there on the market with like gluten-free. So I didn't get that information from my normal doctor. I got it from a holistic doctor, I guess, from a wellness center. So gluten-free, it is a thing. It's in processed foods. So if you want to avoid it, avoid processed foods. And it's also in condiments, and it can be in drinks, like even beer can have gluten in it. So it's really a matter of reading the labels. And if you need help reading the labels, get in contact with me. And I've got a little in the show notes, I'll put my Linktree details, and I have a little freebie guide there of things to avoid, some additives and that to avoid, not so much gluten, but like I said, anything that has grains in it, that's all wheat based, even if it's in a sauce that you pick up from the shelf and it's got a wheat in it, it's going to have gluten in it. So I hope this was a contribution. I hope you've got a better understanding about gluten and what has gluten and what hasn't. I don't think I sort of said what hasn't so much, but typically anything that's not in a packet has no gluten, like fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds, unless they've got additives in them. So hopefully your gluten-free journey will continue to get better and better, and your health will increase with awareness. So thank you for listening, and I'll be back next week with maybe another food thing. We'll see how we go. So have a great week, and I'll see you then. Bye.